You're listening to the Arena Sports Network, the Quad County Experience, where every fan has a voice and every team has a fan.
You can't handle the truth.
When you put cameras right in our face, like, we really don't know what to say.
Oh, I'm supposed to say something? I ain't got nothing to say.
Don't talk to me today.
Be smart what you say.
You want me to say something?
I got the mic there.
I got nothing funny to say.
I don't either.
I'm not Brett Favre.
Sorry to let them down.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys. It's a game. It's a game out here I want to play in.
Someday with experience, we'll have something funny to say.
Pull out your recorders and cover your children's eyes. You're about to enter the afternoon locker room. And here we go inside the afternoon locker room with your host, Brian Snow.
Wait a minute. That's when I would need it. Live from Chesterton, Indiana. It's the Tuesday edition of the Afternoon Locker Room. I told you we'd be here. Yesterday we had a little trouble, and it's called traffic, and anyone who's driven through traffic in Chicago knows what I'm talking about. And I would just say that the drive home last night from Chesterton, Indiana, to say that it was scary would be an understatement. Behind this, at 5:15 this afternoon Central Time, we will continue our coverage of the we'll continue our coverage of the 2014 Northern Indiana Babe Ruth District Tournament. I have got to play this routine. My good friend Mark Farina, who's been my broadcast partner for 3 years now, we've been friends for about 15 years. He and I have a George Carlin routine almost down pat. And whenever he and I are feeling a little down in the dumps, we would send each other pieces of that. And I sent him a text this morning that said, it said, baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life. And of course, Mark knows George Carlin as well as I do. So he responded, and the next part of it, football begins in the fall when everything is dying. And there's a fellow entrepreneur off to my left who's getting some work done. And let me just be serious for a moment and say we hope everyone that went through the storm last night, and there were plenty of them, even if you don't have power at this time, we hope that you all are safe, because it was a mess last night. It was an absolute mess. But there's an entrepreneur here sitting to my left, and this young fella came in here. He said, I just don't have any power. I just need somewhere to work. So he's plugged up here. We're this afternoon locker room is all of our programming on the Arena Sports Network, presented by LaPorteCountyLife.com. LaPorte County Life, have you heard the good news? And this afternoon, our presenting sponsor is McDonald's here in Chesterton. As we kill the next hour for you, I got Keith Myers that will ring in for me from Indianapolis. He'll ride shotgun with me at the bottom of the hour. And like I was saying, I keep looking at this text, and I just imagine, I just recently got a car, and Mark and I would drive to all of our assignments, be it in South Bend or whatever, and we would just find pieces of this routine and we would just repeat it to each other. And it's just so hilarious the way. Why don't I just play this for you? Because I'm waiting for Mike Green to ring into the show. I'm going to try to get him on here in a couple of minutes. But while that's going on, why don't y'all just listen? If you listen to this routine, you'll understand why I'm laughing. Now, let me set it up for you. It's one of George Carlin's favorite and famous routines. It's called Baseball or Football. And this version he did, because he did two versions of it. He did one in 1984, and he did one in 1990. The version I'm going to play for you is from 1990, and he did it in New Jersey as part of a show. Not What Am I Doing in New Jersey? It's Back in Town was 1996. Jamming in New York was 1992. Doing It Again was the show that he did in New Jersey in 1990. Again, this is baseball versus football. This is George Carlin. He did this in New Jersey in 1990, and I hope you all enjoy.
I'd like to talk a little bit about baseball and football. Starting with baseball. Baseball is different from any other sport in a lot of different little ways. For instance, in most sports, you score points or you score goals. In baseball, you score runs. In most sports, the ball or the object is put in play by the offensive team. In baseball, the defense puts the ball in play, and only the defensive team is allowed to touch the ball. In fact, in baseball, if an offensive player touches the ball intentionally, he's out. Also, most sports, the team is run by a coach. In baseball, the team is run by a manager. And only in baseball does the manager or the coach have to wear the same uniform the players do. Can you picture Bill Parcells in his New York Giants uniform? Now, baseball and football are different from one another in other kind of interesting ways, I think. First of all, baseball is a 19th century pastoral game. Football is a 20th century technological struggle. Baseball is played on a diamond, in a park, the baseball park. Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium. Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life. Football begins in the fall when everything is dying. In football, you wear a helmet. In baseball, you wear a cap. Football is concerned with downs. What down is it? Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? Are you up? I'm not up. He's up. In football, the specialist comes in to kick. In baseball, the specialist comes in to relieve someone. In football, you receive a penalty. In baseball, you make an error. Whoops. Football has hitting, clipping, spearing, blocking, piling on, late hitting, unnecessary roughness, and personal fouls. Baseball has the sacrifice. Football is played in any kind of weather. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, mud. Can't read the numbers on the field, can't read the yard markers, can't read the players' numbers. The struggle will continue. In baseball, if it rains, we don't come out to play. I can't come out to play. It's raining out. Baseball has a 7th inning stretch. Football has the 2-minute warning. Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. We might have extra innings. Football is rigidly timed, and it will end even if we have to go to sudden death. In baseball, during the game in the stands, there's kind of a picnic feeling. Emotions may run high or low, but there's not that much unpleasantness. In football, in the stands during the game, you can be sure that at least 27 times you were perfectly capable of taking the life of a fellow human being. Preferably a stranger. And finally, the objectives of the two games are totally different. In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home and to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home. Safe
at home. As y'all were listening to that routine by George Carlin, I have a friend. Her name is Lisa Morris. She lives in Hilliard, Ohio. She happened to ring me. She happened to ring me. She knew I was on the air, and she decided to ring me eating salt and vinegar potato chips. Don't this woman know any better? I mean, she's punished enough eating the doggone things, and she just sent me a message. She says, but they're good. Yeah, they're not, but they can't be too good. If A, your eyes are watering, B, you can't talk. And I plan to get this woman on air. Don't tell me how. And I'm planning to get this woman on air. You know what's funny? You know what's fun when watching sports with friends? Lisa and I have been friends for over 6 years. And we started conversing on the phone when I came back from a road trip to Texas. And she made fun of my southern twang, which I never denied, okay? Now, she has a beautiful baby boy. He's 16 years old. His name is Chris. And she and Chris took a trip to Louisville, Kentucky. And yes, I said it right, Louisville. And she started talking Southern. She called me. This is how you know you have great friends. She's supposed to be on a mini vacation with her son, but she called me from Kentucky to tease me. She says, don't you wish you were in Louisville? And I said, yes and no. She says, what do you mean no? Because I'll get to talking Southern around you and you'll make fun of me, but here's my payoff. I get to pick on her the rest of her life because she thinks that her Southern twang won't go away. That's exactly what she gets. I'll talk about her more in a moment. Let's talk a little bit of hockey, shall we? Let's go inside the green room as we calm down from our hilarity. Mike Green is on the hotline with me. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how's everything in Chi-Town today?
Everything's good, my friend. Everything is good. I mean, listen, we had a ball talking hockey yesterday, and we're going to do some more of it today. I want to call this the Blackhawks Renaissance because that is exactly what's going on with the Hawks right now. They're going through a renaissance. They're going through a great period of time. And you mentioned 6 years of hockey, and all this has happened. I want you to tell the fans again, Mike, what you attribute this big turnaround to.
Well, there's several reasons. Number one, Rocky Wirtz taking control of the Blackhawks in 2007 when his father passed away. The drafting of Taves and Kane lit the fire. Hiring John McDonough to market this great franchise, get the home games back on television was a big help.
Yeah, it was.
And, you stop and think about, for many years, you could only see the road games in Chicago, and most of those games are 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, on the West Coast trips.
Exactly. So, and those were the biggest factors. The Hawks really do a great job of marketing themselves. The players are out in the community a lot. But the main reason is Rocky Wirtz and his commitment to building a champion, winning Stanley Cups. The Taves and Kane, the drafting of those two got it started. How
important was it for the Hawks to have faces of the franchise, not getting just one face of the franchise, but two faces of the franchise, and have them linked so well, not to mention they play together very well, as you and I both have watched. How important was it to have them linked so well on and off the ice where you can't say one without the other?
Well, yeah, they are joined at the hip. You know, they pretty much play the same line together on the ice, but the other factors being, too, let's face it, they're good-looking guys. They're very marketable. They do a lot of commercials. They got, very affluent personalities. They're easy to engage, and you can't come across two better ambassadors to the franchise than these two, other than the legends they brought back, Bobby, Stan, and Tony, and Dennis, and everybody else. So, these two, if they keep going on their current trek, they're going to have statues out in front of the United States about 10 years from now.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. How big was it also to have a fan convention each year for all these Mad Blackhawk fans? And I mean, they're coming out of the woodworks now, but it's so great to see. And I'll pose the question again: how big is it also when they started the fan convention and the attendance got bigger and bigger? How big was that for this franchise?
Well, the Blackhawks were the first NHL team to do a summer fan convention. Now there's quite a few teams that do it, but the Hawks were the first ones to do it. It's just another way to, market the franchise. Pretty much all the players show up for it, including, management and ownership and so forth. It's just a great way to meet the players. The players are very accessible. They sign a lot of autographs. It's just Blackhawk heaven for those few days.
And it is Blackhawk heaven for those few days. It brings all the fans together. It just allows a big love fest to happen with the fans and with the players, and for the fans to show their appreciation for the Blackhawks for this Renaissance. Talking with Mike Green here on the Afternoon Locker Room as we come to you from Chesterton, Indiana. Today we're brought to you by McDonald's of Chesterton. And we're talking Blackhawk hockey, talking Blackhawk Renaissance, and Mike, you said it yesterday. 6 of the best years of Blackhawk hockey have been this period of time when McDonough and company when Wirtz and company took over the Blackhawks. How long can this renaissance go on? I mean, we talked about the draft yesterday and how the Hawks drafted well and how they're going to compete with the likes of the Kings and the Ducks and the St. Louis Blues. But if you think about it, the most marketable team right now in the Western Conference is the Chicago Blackhawks, and it also helps when you have a great product on the ice.
Well, let's also not forget one name I forgot to mention that helped get this started was former GM Dale Talon. He was the one that put the two. He often gets overlooked now, but he was the one that put the 2010 team together, knowing full well that team was going to be disbanded.
Yeah.
Following the cup run, but the Hawks had gone 49 years on winning a cup. They were just desperate to win one. And now, obviously Scott Bowman has taken his place, but Dale Talon gets overlooked quite a bit for helping bring the Blackhawks back. Obviously the Hawks were bad for many years, and he did some nice draft. He made some nice. How about that Patrick Sharp trade back in 2005 for a guy like Matt Ellison?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an example. Dale Talon did a nice job in bringing the franchise back, and if you look what the near-term future looks like, it's really bright. The Hawks are still, other than a couple of guys like Hossa who's 35 and Sharp is 32, the Hawks are still a young team. Their best players are still in their prime. Taze is only 25, Kane's only 24, Keith is only 30. They got the best hot. They're still in their prime.
Okay, I have to ask you, from one Blackhawk fan to another. The day was June 9th, 2010. Patrick Kane puts in the game winner in Philadelphia in overtime to end the drought. Where were you at that time? I have to ask this.
I was at home watching on TV, and I just remember as clear as day after, because I knew the puck went in. You saw the puck go in.
Yes.
I remember running to the refrigerator, grabbing a champagne and the biggest cigar I could find, and just lighting it up.
I love it.
49 49 years of frustration erased in one single moment. That's a moment I'll never forget.
And that's exactly the words that John Weideman used in his call when he said, quote, Blackhawk fans around the world, you've endured 49 years of frustration. And we were often the butt of everybody's jokes when it came to winning a Stanley Cup. That moment, I can tell you exactly, I was listening to the game on WGN. I had just wrapped up calling a baseball game. And the winning shot went in by Patrick Kane, and I just started honking my horn, flying down I-80, and then everybody else picked up the clue, and they all turned to WGN, and they were honking their horns too. And a couple of police officers went by, and they're wondering what's going on, but then they figured out that Patrick Kane had scored the game winner, and the Hawks won the Stanley Cup. How is that to tie together what Dale Talon, Rocky Wirtz, John McDonough had put together to have it culminated not only in that moment, but also in the moment in 2013 when the Hawks won the Stanley Cup?
Right. If I had to pick between the two, which one was my favorite? Now, both obviously are pretty special, but the 2010 one was a little more for me because it ended the drought. Now, obviously 2013 was pretty amazing, the last 17 seconds of Game 6. But,
yes.
But the 2010 one will always have a special place in my heart because that.
I think we lost him. We lost him again, Mike. If you can hear this, ring back at us real quick. Hoping he calls back in. Hoping he calls back in just a moment. But think about what he said, folks. Think about how special that moment was in Blackhawk history when Patrick Kane scored the game winner and ended the drought and ended the frustration. That basically kicked the Blackhawks Renaissance into high gear. It kicked the Renaissance into very high gear. Again, we're coming to you live from McDonald's in Chesterton, Indiana, right off the highway. This is where the afternoon locker room will originate for the remainder of the week as we continue our live coverage of the Northern Indiana Babe Ruth District Tournament. And I got a manager here making a signal at me. You know what? She came over here, and I mean this lovingly, and I hope she knows that. She came over here looking at my toys and wondering, what in the world is he doing? Then she goes to her meeting, folks, and then on top of that, after she goes to her meeting, I mentioned this place, which I'm going to do throughout the course of the week, and I thank her and the rest of the staff for allowing the show to be originated from here. I thank you very much for that. But she looked at me when I made the mention. She gave me a thumbs up, which basically gave me a green light. So I'm going to publicize them throughout the course of the week. But think of how fun it was, and think of where you were when the Blackhawks won it all the first time. In 2010. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 2010. 2013 is special. We know that. And I think Mike's back on the line with me. Mike, you back with me?
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess not. That answers that. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on. I got Keith Myers coming at the bottom of the hour in just a moment. As Mike said, for me it's pretty tough to pick between the two, because they're both very special. One ended the drought, which was 2010, and the second one added a little icing on the cake. So with that thought alone, you would think 2010 would be the more special one. But it's just the moment of seeing it happen. You just don't get tired of seeing that kind of stuff happen. We're looking at our hotline here. I think Mike's back on the hotline with me. Mike, you back with me?
Yeah, sorry about that. We're having some potential severe weather out here.
Now, why don't you make one? I want you to make one final point, then I'm gonna let you go because I know you got severe weather in your area, down in Columbus, and I know we're gonna talk a lot more. Mike and I are putting together a hockey show that's gonna start in August. That's going to basically blow the other shows away, and I want Mike to tell you guys what we are going to bring to this hockey show. Take it away, Mike.
Non-stop Blackhawk coverage and just basic general talk of the NHL in general. And it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of opinions will be expressed. And that's basically it. The talk will be all centered around the Indian head, my friend.
All righty. That's what we're going to bring to you, folks, and we'll begin that in August. Thank you very much, Mike.
If we get closer to training camp, it'll be even better.
All right. Thanks a lot, my friend. Appreciate it.
Okay, have a great day.
Keith Myers is next. He'll ride shotgun with me as we talk some high school football. You're listening to the Afternoon Locker Room live from Chesterton, Indiana on the Arena Sports Network.
Have you heard the good news about a crazy dream based on a belief that positive breeds positive and that people want to read, hear, and watch stuff about good people? Have you heard the good news about a place you can go to enjoy positive, community-oriented information about the town, city, or region you live in and the people involved? Have you heard the good news about a place where you can celebrate what is right in the world, share it with your friends, family, and community, and neighbors at school, work, or place of worship, and have fun doing it? Well, there is such a place. That place is LaPorteCountyLife.com. LaPorteCountyLife.com is all about the positive, not the negative, bringing out the best and not the worst, and all about promoting positivity in your community. LaPorteCountyLife.com. Have you heard the good news?
At Strachan Van Til, we think differently about groceries. We always have. So what does that mean? It means better, fresher, focused on you. Your neighborhood store that gives you more. It's quality, selection, the variety you want. Choice meats, deli, bakery, your one-stop shop. Everything on your list and all for less. With the savings you deserve and unbeatable service, that's different. That's built around you, and that's your Strachan Van Til.
It began as a promise. Son, we're going on a road trip. That promise has lasted over 30 years. Our dream is to visit every national park in America. It's been thousands of miles, countless bumps along the way, but we'll just keep moving on, pursuing this amazing dream.
Visit DrassichAgency.com or call 219-945-3040 and ask Joel Drassich how you can get all of your insurance under one roof.
I represent the Excelsior Appliance and Appurtenance Company Incorporated with a complete line of household appliances and Is the lady of the house in? What?
Testing. 1, 2. Oh, sorry. You're listening to the Afternoon Locker Room on the Arena Sports Network. Is this thing on?
Afternoon Locker Room Express rolls on from Chesterton, Indiana, as on the back end of this, beginning at 5:15, we will have live coverage of the Northern Indiana Babe Ruth District Tournament, day number 2, and we will feature the game that was supposed to be played at 8 o'clock last evening, but unfortunately Mother Nature decided to intercept those plans and downpour us. So that's going to be our first game at 5, and then we'll see LaPorte, and then you will hear the LaPorte Slicers play the winner of that game at 8:30. That'll come from Chesterton High School. We'll start everything at 5:15. Now then, how fun is it, and I've asked a lot of people this, how fun is it to cover high school events? I've had, people that are in the industry and think they know what they're talking about tell me, oh, that can't be that fun. They're high school kids. Let me tell you something. It's the most fun I've had in 18 years, and it's been our focus. But I'm not alone. There's a fellow on the hotline with me that does the same thing down in Naptown, Indianapolis, Indiana. You heard him ride shotgun with me before. He's going to ride shotgun with me now for a couple of minutes, talking some high school football. The day is July 1st, and Keith Myers of the Indiana Sports Radio Network is on the hotline with me. What's up, Keith?
It is hot. I just checked the temperature. We're going to be doing the Indian. We're going to be watching the Indians tonight. The Indianapolis Indians taking on the Toledo Med, and it is 87 degrees and humidity 97%.
Oh boy!
We're hot and sticky. So I stuck my head inside the studio of Indiana SRN, and it's nice and cool in here. And I'm not looking forward to doing baseball, but you have a great baseball games tonight too, so
yeah,
pretty cool.
We got a pair of good ones tonight from Chester, and can't wait to get there to do them. But what we're waiting for, and we talked about it this morning, right after I got off the air, we're waiting for high school football to get started, because as exciting as last season was, each season gets more exciting, and this is going to be no exception. And we got a lot in the works for the 2014 season.
Well, you look at the football. You look at the football season now that the ISSA has added contact, and they can hit each other August 6th. The first game of the year is August 22nd, and we're covering 3 teams, and we're looking at actually adding a game of the week on our network. So it should be a lot of fun. And Brian, this time of year, when you have coaches and teams get to have to so much rest, so they can't do anything this week. But next week, those coaches have things in store for them to, either start working these weights or whatever they need to do.
Man, they are getting really cranked up for it. This is their week off, and probably their lone week off until week 14 for the lucky ones. But just as big as basketball is in Indiana, football is too, especially when you have a chance to finish your season at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis.
Right. Well, you look at last year and with the 6As, and we talked about this earlier today. That you look at the teams that just register big time. In 6A, you have Center Grove, Carmel, Warren Central, Pike, Penn Davis, Penn, Indianapolis Cathedral, Columbus East, North Central, and Fishers. All those teams last year combined, you ready for this? Combined had a total of 20 losses.
Wow.
And those 10 schools.
Wow.
So you look at that, that's incredible. You had Center Grove that was 11-2. They didn't even get to the state finals, and they were 11-2.
Yeah.
You look at the worst team in that whole entire event. Yeah, North Central from Indianapolis, they were 8-3, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incredible that how 6A is really taking off, and you got some powers. Andrea is ranked 19th, and they are a 3A school. That's up in the neck of your woods, and Andrea in 3A is ranked 19th in the overall pool in 2014.
Andrean, Maryville, of course, representing the powerful Duneland Athletic Conference, and the DAC is going to be one of our focuses this year, where you have Maryville, you have LaPorte, you got Chesterton, which is where we are tonight, Andrean in the area as well. That Andrean-Maryville game is going to be something else. Andrean has always been one of the biggest powers here in the North region. A couple of other schools are going to be talked about as well, but Andrean is going to be one of the main focuses here. What are a couple of other teams that'll be the focus your way?
Well, let's go back up to still a good place. You got Fort Wayne at Carroll that's going to be dangerous this year. Lake Central, Fort Wayne Steiner, Fort Wayne Concord, Fort Wayne North.
Yep.
Maryville, as you mentioned, those teams. I say that the sleeper in 6A could be Portage.
Right, because Portage has been knocking on the door for the past 3 years. They've been knocking on the door for the past 3 years, and they just might bust through this year.
Yeah, and then you look at you got to look at Crown Point up there as well. The other, and then not even talking about the the South Bend area with South Bend, Clay, South Bend, and all those South Bend schools. Mishawaka is another team that could be surprising some teams. Down this way, you got your Carmel, you got the Warren Central, you got Indianapolis Cathedral, who continues just to win after win after win. Pike, a very good ball club, Ben Davis, and the big power schools. And then, the other sweeper, New Palestine, is sneaking on a lot of people. They are a 4A school. They are now beginning to get through the sectionals, regional semi-states. One of the things, Brian, that I have noticed that the ISSA has done is they make teams go either north or south to get to the championship game.
Yeah.
And the South region in football has been pretty easy to get through because the North has got the power. Now I think it's changing a little bit.
Yeah, it
where
is.
the South is getting really tough to get to the state finals.
Why do you think that kind of change is happening?
I think one is the growth of the sport. I think two is, like it or not, the vouchers program that the school is now operating on. When you have a voucher school and an athlete can actually really take over, and they can go anywhere they want to go to school, and they decide to go somewhere, and they say it's academics, but a little bit of that in sports as well, Brian.
How dangerous do you think the Dragons of New Palestine will be this year?
I think it depends on the quarterback. They had a lot of talent last year. They had a great receiving core last year. All those kids are gone. So one of the things you have to do is start rebuilding, and the way you do that is during this off season, and you tell kids how important it is that they need to get to school and get to do what they need to do.
It is very important that they do that. Indianapolis Cathedral, the home to the Fighting Irish, they're in 5A. Taking a peek at their schedule, they open at Ben Davis on the 22nd. That's a 7 p.m. kick. And the first three that they see, Ben Davis, Warren Central, South Bend St. Joseph, before they visit Indianapolis, they visit Chatter down in Indy. First four for Indianapolis Cathedral on the road. How tough of a stretch do you think that will be for them?
Well, yeah, and then you got Ben Davis, who beat them last year. Warren Central, who beat them last year. St. Joe beat them last year. Chittard, they beat Chittard, so they started 0-3, then 1-3, then they lost 2. They had a losing record going into the state championship game last year. If you look at them, they are a Class 4A school, technically, Brian, but because it's success factor, they are now 5A, and because it's success factor last year, this year, they could be a 6A schedule, and if you look at their schedule, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 6As, the rest of them are 4, and 2 of them are 5As in either Kentucky or Ohio. That's a tough schedule, tough sled.
They play Cincinnati St. Xavier. They lost to them last year 15-6. They play that at Lucas Oil Stadium on the 19th, and they play Trinity out of Louisville Trinity. That's the following week on the 26th. I want you to peek at those two games, and you mentioned something that's very true. They had a losing record going into the state playoffs, and then they ran the table, did the Fighting Irish. They basically get the same schedule again. But these two games right here are the two that I'm going to be really paying attention to and hopefully get a chance to call one of them. That's Cincinnati St. Xavier and Louisville Trinity. Does this help them get ready for the state playoffs?
I don't know if you have seen the Xavier Ball Club in Cincinnati, but we got to see them against Deering Catholic a couple of years ago. This is a well-oiled machine. They don't dress 45 kids, Brian. They dress about 70, and they dress. Most of those kids are in the sideline or in the stands, and then they call your number, and you come out and you take someone's place.
Right.
So it's amazing how big these schools are getting and how many kids are going out for football.
They only have, technically, one home game on their schedule. That's October 3rd against Fort Wayne Dwenger. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. I want to say 7 o'clock Eastern time. You know, only one home game. Is there a reason for this kind of scheduling for them?
Well, one, they don't have a home facility, Brian. They're trying to find a home facility. 2, I think, these kids get ready, so when they get to go to Lucas Oil, I think that's where they think is their home field, because that's where they've been ending up the last couple of years in the championship game of the state finals. I think that's where they feel more comfortable playing. And you look at this like it or not, what people think, but high school sports is a revenue sport. There's a reason why these teams want Cathedral on their schedule, because financially they're helping you. Second of all, it's going to be a great football game.
Taking a look at the Maryville Pirates, they're in 6A this year. They open in South Bend at South Bend Clay. That's a 6:30. And then the one on August 29th, and I'm going to try to get this one on our schedule so you and I can both simulcast it. That's Maryville and Andrean, and it's at Maryville. It's a 7 o'clock. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff at the Pirate Ship, and you talk about how much of a power Andrean is. Maryville could be one of those teams that could sneak up on a lot of people, but they have this game in week 2 against Andrean, which will be a measuring stick for them.
Well, the Pirates have been coached by Zach Wells. Now, this is his 9th year. He's 76-25. The offense that he runs, if you want to run, if you want speed, he'll definitely put some speed on the field. But what Andrean has done, and they did last year very well, they control the ball very well. You look at Andrean's schedule, the 59ers are 59-19 Overall, coaches won 92 ball games in 14 years. But you look at the schedule, they play Hammond Knoll, which is a 2A school.
Yep.
They should be able to win that game. They play Merrill, which is 6A. That might be a toss-up. Then they play Grand Rapids Catholic, Michigan.
September 5th.
Oh, my goodness. You're talking about a war. That could be the game that could be a war. But I think the game that could be scary for Andrean is Griffith. Down in October 10th. At Griffith. That could be a pretty good ball game for them.
Why do you think that one is a tough matchup for him?
Well, Griffin is coming on. Jim Puckett is in his third year. He's 6-15. A lot of people say like 6 wins. But what he has done with that program, he has established those kids to believe in the system. And last year, you could see that they started. The light bulbs came on, and they play a very competitive schedule for a 4A school. But they play Bowman Academy. They play Andrean, like we said, Highland, Munster. They're building a program there, and Jim has done a nice job with those kids the last 3 years.
What are the teams in this North region? We went through a list of them already. We said Andrean, we said Maryville, but let me change the question a little bit. What is a conference down your way that could equal the Dumoulin Conference up here in the North region?
Well, you got to go with the first one. You got Ben Davis. The MIC has got to be the best conference football-wise. And then you got Indiana Crossroads Conference. But the conference that I think really surprises a lot of people, and these teams as well, Speedway, Indianapolis, Christina, all those schools is a dominating conference, and that's Indiana Crossroads. They're a conference that have the 2 and 1 and 2A schools in it. But for example, they have Speedway, they have Beach Grove, they have Lutheran, Triton Central, Ritter, and Morovia. Now, a lot of people don't know about Morovia football. They have been down in the last couple of years, but they're coming up. Indianapolis Ritter, oh my goodness. They are a machine. Now, they're going to lose their quarterback this year, but, you never know what coach has in mind for them, because year after year, Ritter has been very dominant in small football. Brian has been there 9 years. He's 93-16. Brian, I coached. I have never had 16 wins, let alone 93 of them. So they will be a dominating force. Another school that you need to be very aware of is the Buff in 3A. It will be pretty good. Nick Laughlin's coming back. They were 11-4 last year with them. 11-4 in the 2 years that he's been there. Zionsville, another good ball club that you might want to take care of. Coach Pat is there for first year. And then you got schools that are starting football. You got Owenburg Academy that is in their second year. You have Covenant Christian, who is in their first year of high school sports and high school football. So there are 9 different schools that are starting football that will be in either 1 or 2A, which in 3 years' time, the class system that we have here, it's going to equal the playing field, and it seems like every sport we talk about in Indiana, it gets better and better and better. As you look at our baseball state finals, you look at the softball state finals, there was 4 different new champions in softball this year just because of the class system.
Taking a peek at Brebeuf Jesuit down in Indianapolis, the Braves, coached by Mick Rossler, he's in his second year. And taking a peek at their schedule, they open at Chittard in Indy, then they go to North Montgomery, and then they host Ritter on September 5th. Taking a peek at their schedule, what do you see? You mentioned Brebeuf would be a sleeper. How much of a sleeper do you think they'll be?
Well, I think they could make some noise. If you look at their schedule, North Montgomery is not a sleeper. North Montgomery will give them fits. Ritter will give them fits. Go down to October 3rd, the Guerin Catholic game.
Yes.
That game is at Guerin Catholic. You will not find a seat. In fact, that game is at 7 o'clock. I will tell you, Brian, the parking lot will be full of grills and steak and lobster at about 5:30 for that game.
That's a game we ought to. That's a game we ought to do then. That's a game. Listen, let's see what we can do. That's a game you and I ought to strap on the headset and go do it.
We'll see what Indiana Sports Network can do there.
All right. If you get that, I will gladly come down and team up with you and do that. And they open with Chichard, and I just saw this note. This note was just given to me. It's at Lucas Oil. So a lot of teams are getting to experience Lucas Oil Stadium this year down in the Indianapolis area. How big is that for them, attitude-wise?
When you look at Chichard and Lucas, they are playing at Lucas Oil Stadium not once but twice. They played Buff there. They played Ritter there. Then you look at Chichard, as we talked about, Vince Lozano, 132 and 27 in 12 years. Right. I don't think he's ever had a losing record in his tenure at Chichard. The toughest game on his schedule either is Cathedral, and then they have to play Cincinnati,
Winton Woods,
and Ohio.
In Cincinnati. Woo!
Yep.
In Cincinnati, and you're right. They play two at Lucas Oil. They've got They got two at Lawrence Central and one at Lawrence North, meaning Indianapolis Chichard. They open at Lucas Oil with Brebeuf, and then they see Ritter again. You made that note on the 19th, and you also made a good note about. Well, let me ask you, how does playing at Lucas during the season get these teams ready for state playoffs, just in case they make it back to Lucas Oil for the final game of the year?
Well, I will tell you this. We have been very blessed to be able to call several games at Lucas Oil Stadium. We also cover the state finals every year at the Lucas Oil Stadium. It's a great warm-up. You want to win that game regardless, but it gets you to a point. Lafayette Central Catholic's coach once told me, it got us ready to believe where we can get there. And so when you're there and you have success, it's very huge. Kevin O'Shea from Lafayette Central Catholic, a 2A school, now is in a factor where they have played at Lucas Oil Stadium, but year in and year out, when they were 1A, when they made their run, they played at Lucas Oil Stadium a couple times to get ready for the state championship games.
Keith Myers riding shotgun with me, talking all things high school football. And folks, do not be surprised if Keith and I team up a time or two during this part of the season. We're going to have a lot of fun, and there's a new show that's going to be premiering in August, and it's going to be a Saturday show. Tell the folks about that.
Well, Sports Saturday will be a live show. We have not designated the time yet. We're kicking around the time, but we'll go remotely to different areas, and we will then post all the games that were played on Friday night. Then we'll have coaches on the show. Brett Young and Sean Carl will be hosting that show, and I think, Brian, that you're slated to be up every Saturday morning to throw your 2 cents worth at the region baton as high school football, but not only high school, but we're going to cover college and pro as well. It's on for 2 hours, and it's going to be premiered on Indiana SRN, and I think Arena Sports Network's going to pick up the link.
Yep, we are going to pick up the link. We are going to pick up the broadcast, and I indeed will be helping out with that show. It's going to be very exciting. When we get all the details together, we will let the fans know. Keith Myers, thanks for riding shotgun with me, my friend. I can't wait to do some football with you this year.
I cannot wait. I know. I talked to Coach at Tennessee Christian this afternoon. He goes, the toughest thing about this week, I said, what's that? I can't talk to anybody. Even the coaches has taken the week off. So
this is moratorium. This is moratorium week in Indiana, my friend.
It is quiet in the front. It's definitely quiet in my office, I will tell you that.
Well, I tell you what, when I have you riding shotgun with me next week, it's going to be an absolute madhouse. I'll guarantee you that.
That's true. Hey, real quick, the wrestling, we want to appreciate all your support about that.
Thank you.
We raised a great number of dollars for Camp Indy, and some kids are going to camp because of the great support that we had at that. So thank you very much. And I had to turn in the World Championship belt last week, so the belt is not around my waist any longer, my friend.
That's great. That is great, my friend. I thank you very much. Man, I can't, like I said, I can't wait to do some football with you. I'm excited. I can't wait.
All right, Brian. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Keith Myers riding shotgun with me for this part of the afternoon locker room, the Express edition. And we're getting ready to get out of here, but we're going to pause for a break. And let me see how many laughs I can get out of a few people before we get out of here. Come back and wrap it up after this. Live from Chesterton, Indiana on the Arena Sports Network. Man.
Have you heard the good news about a company that started 4 years ago and worked at a relentless pace based entirely upon one simple premise? Have you heard the good news about a place you can go to enjoy positive, community-oriented information about the town, city, or region that you live in and the people involved? Have you heard the good news that you yourself can share stories about this same theme to others in your community? That place is LaPorteCountyLife.com. At LaPorteCountyLife.com, you can celebrate a company that had a crazy dream based on a belief that positive breeds positive, and that people want to read, hear, and watch stuff about good people. At LaPorteCountyLife.com, you can go to a place to enjoy positive, community-oriented information about the town, city, or region that you live in and the people involved. Want to see more? Want to read more? Want to hear more? Then go to LaPorteCountyLife.com. Have you heard the good news?
I represent the Excelsior Appliance and Appurtenance Company Incorporated with a complete line of household appliances and Is the lady of the house in? What?
Testing. 1, 2. Oh, sorry. You're listening to the Afternoon Locker Room on the Arena Sports Network. Is this thing on?
Folks, we're getting ready to wrap up here in Chesterton, and I was telling you all about my friend Lisa before Mike called and we talked some hockey. You know what? She's made me laugh for 6 years about the craziest things, and she rang back and she says, "I have a few minutes, but it's gotta be quick." And I said something to her. I will not repeat it on air, but just know that she's laughing a lot. Okay? And then she decided to throw 3 words at me, quick and painless. I am not going to make a comment on that right now, which is just not fair. But I will say this. A few years ago, I got her to say a name that she said she would never, ever, ever say. And when did she say this name? Of course, she said it in church. Now, why do you think? I love this woman dearly. She's been a wonderful friend. But why do you think this woman who was sitting in church would? And I teased her about it so badly, and it's my fault. I told her about the infamous Kosuke Fukudome, and she kept saying, "I'll never say that name. I'll never say it. I'll never say it." And yet in church, what did she utter twice? You got it, Fukudome. And she called me. She called me and she said, "I hate you." I said, "Why?" She says, "I said Fukudome tonight." I said, "Good, you got it out of your system." Well, that led to a code of silence. I mean, do you ever have one of those friends that you tease so badly, they get so mad at you when you make a mistake, and Lord knows I made plenty, and she says something like, "Well, you know that you can acknowledge me." That's the phrase I wanted to use. Acknowledge me. We had a ball here in Chesterton, Indiana. We're going to do it again tomorrow. Here from Seatown, and I'm blowing my levels up again. I'm sorry. We had an absolute blast here in Chesterton, here at the McDonald's in Chesterton, which is the presenter of our show today. And hopefully, if all goes right, I will get them to be the lead sponsor for the remainder of our coverage for our baseball tournament. I hope to turn that deal over tomorrow. Until then, we're done here, so we're going to wrap up. We're going to get ready for some baseball in less than an hour from now. And we hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll be back here tomorrow. We're going to talk some NBA free agency, and I'm going to spit out some facts that'll dispel what everybody is thinking about Carmelo, about LBJ, and about basketball in general. And then Michael Ramos will join me for the second half of the show to give her knowledge and bring the knowledge with the McDonald's Round Ball Report. That'll do it. We hope you love it. And we will talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. So long, everybody.